Welcome back. Here at the US IBC India Ideas Summit, the focus is also on identifying new avenues for investments for both US and Indian companies. Shereen Bhan caught up with the president and chair of the US Exim Bank, who said that US is very keen to invest and partner with India on large infrastructure projects such as roads, airports, also in sectors like telecommunications and critical minerals.
Let me start by asking you for your outlook on where things stand as far as the global economy is concerned. From a trade perspective, it's all over the place, is it not?
No, it's actually a very, very exciting time, and it is an especially exciting time for U.S.-India relations. The fact that we have shared values, and as stakeholders working together as great partners, it gives us an opportunity to really focus and hone in on what makes both of our economies grow and growing and for prosperity. But the most important thing is that growing as partners, growing as collaborators, and understanding that there's just so much that we can do as we look to tackle some of the biggest challenges that we're all going to face.
You talked about opportunities that both sides are focusing on. What do you see specifically as areas that you believe both individual countries can focus on together? Which are the areas that you believe require the bandwidth of the political capital as well as the private sector's capital to focus on?
Well, at Exim, which is US Exim, which is America's only export credit agency, one of the most important things is we believe that we are living up to our true mission. That this past February, we were celebrating our 90th anniversary. And our mission then, to me, is the same thing as our mission now. When President Roosevelt created Exim Bank, the principal mission was to facilitate exports and support U.S. jobs. And I believe that is exactly the same thing that we're doing now in the Biden-Harris administration. But when I talk about jobs, you can't just talk about jobs in the U.S. You have to talk about jobs in the host countries of which you are working in. And there are now so many sectors that are creating these jobs. And some of the areas that we at Exim have been focused on with partners in the private sector here, with our counterpart, ECGC, the Export Credit Agency here in India, are the ones that you see that are in the news all the time. Is definitely focusing on areas around large infrastructure projects. It's focused on areas in the digital the digital space, the areas around critical minerals, telecommunications, and of course all things energy, renewable energy, energy efficiency, energy storage. Those are just some of the sectors that are coming to the forefront that we see opportunities to partner together.
Well, speaking of opportunities, I think one of the things that everyone talks about as a big potential focus area is the diversification of supply chains that's currently underway on account of the geopolitical risks and tensions that we are seeing, and India is likely to be a beneficiary of that. How are you facilitating the diversification at this point in time, and how do you see it playing out over the next few years?
One of the things that that's important to us is how we work with our large companies, whether it's Indian companies, whether it's American companies, within their supply chains. Our offerings at Exim is all around, whether it's working capital guarantees, it's direct loans, it's insurance products. We are looking to facilitate the debt financing for these kinds of projects. And so we really look to our larger companies as we work to look at efforts of how we can make these types of offerings to their supply chains.
As you look at where things stand in the world today, when we talk about a move towards deglobalization, retreating from multilateralism towards more bilateralism, how has the narrative changed, and how is that reshaping the way that you think about policy and measures in the future?
Well, for us, it's been exciting to be able to be here as Exim, because our prime purpose is around being here this week is working with the private sector, working with government leaders as we look to strengthen and deepen our overall economic and commercial relationship between U.S. and India, as well as it has been exceptionally exciting in conversations where it's been looked at in conversations around trilateral bilateral relationships or even in relationships throughout the entire region. And we know that India has played such a central and a leading role in the work that is going on, especially from an economic perspective and a private sector perspective throughout the region. And so, EXIM just wants to be able to be looked at as one of those institutions in the United States government that has some tools to help businesses grow and thrive, whether they're American businesses who are looking to work in India, or whether it's Indian companies who are working with goods, who are looking to purchase goods and services and export those back to India.
US and India recently signed the Security of Supply Agreement, which integrates the defense companies and defense industries in US and India. What does this mean for our defense partnership? To understand this, I spoke to Lindsey, a senior White House official here at the US IBC India Idea Summit. Listen in.
We're working together in space like defense industry to think about our own security at home. And so for both the United States and India, some of the work that we're doing together on armored combat vehicles, jet engines, make our own defense industrial bases stronger, and increasingly we're doing that together. The second thing is I think we're thinking about how the U.S.-India relationship can bring more security in the Indo-Pacific region. So we're partnering together with ASEAN in the Pacific Islands across the Indian Ocean, and we're looking at the kinds of training, capacity building, and capabilities that we can provide elsewhere in the region. And finally, we're thinking about the security of the globe. I think the U.S. and India are two of the few countries in the world who can come together with the capacity and the scale to contribute to global security.
Speaking about a landmark agreement on defense, the Security of Supply Agreement, this was in principle agreed upon between Prime Minister Modi and President Biden last year. Just a few weeks back, it was formally signed between the two countries. How will this integrate our defense industrial bases of the two countries more closely together? What's the potential?
I think that this is a great example of work that we're doing on supply chain resilience and security across our governments. On the defense side, the real advantage of the SOSA agreement is speed. Oftentimes there have been big delays, gaps when it comes to supply chains. So through this agreement, we are prioritizing each other when there's a need. And that is everything from when there is a disaster to peacetime, to were there to be a conflict. We work together to make sure that our respective defense industries can get what they need more quickly and move to the front of the line.
Right. I'd like to ask you about the GE 414 engines. That was also a landmark deal that was signed between GE and HAL of India, but the deal is yet to take off. Do you see any kind of roadblocks to it, or do you feel that those differences are getting ironed out?
I don't see any roadblocks right now. That negotiation is really between the two companies, and so it's with them, not governments. But I think it is not surprising at all for these negotiations to take some time, because what we said when we discussed this deal was that this was the most significant technology transfer of jet engine technology the United States government had ever approved. And we're talking about enormous engines with thousands and thousands of parts that these two companies have to figure out how to bring together. So I think my understanding is they are continuing to make good progress.
But do you have a broad timeline within which both the companies could begin joint manufacturing together?
I don't have any specifics to give you today. What I will say is I think both the companies and the governments remain laser focused on moving this as quickly as we can.
Okay, even when we met you last time, you had spoken about working together on manufacturing land combat systems. Where are those talks currently? Are there more initiatives where we are considering joint manufacturing?
There are a number that we're looking at joint manufacturing. So certainly armored combat systems, jet engines we've talked about, but there are others that we outlined in the defense industry roadmap the United States and India concluded together. One I would point to is ISR systems. I think increasingly we're looking at opportunities to manufacture those together, and unmanned systems, whether that's in the air or in the sea. And so there are a number of things that as governments and industry we're looking at together that I think we'll see come to fruition in the next few months and the next couple of years.
Right. After SOSA and having the agreement on liaison officers, is there any other enabling agreement that US and India are now working to probably ratify soon?
You know, the amazing thing about the last handful of years is I think we put a number of foundational agreements in place that, frankly, folks thought might never happen, and now we have them all in place. So more than focusing on additional foundational agreements, I think what we're trying to do now is really implement the ones that we have. So how do we put them into action? As our militaries come together, they train, they exercise together, they share information together. That's what all of those agreements enable. So I think we have all the building blocks that we need right now, and now we have to build on them.
How do you see the last agreement, which was just done maybe 2 or 3 days back between the US State Department on semiconductors and the Indian government? What will this mean in terms of exploring joint manufacturing and joint cooperation on supply chains?
Well, I think what it will mean is we're looking to opportunities for the United States to support India's growing semiconductor manufacturing industry. And there are a number of ways we can do that, through industry-to-industry tie-ups or through research and development. What we've certainly seen is, whether it is in the commercial space or in the defense space, the need for semiconductor chips frankly outstrips global supply right now, and we see India as an important part of that supply chain going forward.
On that note, we come to the end of our special broadcast. From all of us here, thank you for watching and goodbye.